Welcome back to Hasbro's Hide. Thought we'd take a look today at the Teslong Professional Borescope. Now, there are many people that have reviewed this recently. I believe Eagle Eye is the first one that I've seen do this on his channel. But what I thought we'd do is just take a look. I actually have two of these now. The first one was so good, I had it at my house one day, and we had a project at work to use it on, and so it's now at work. So I ordered another one, and this is the USB version. So there's a wireless version, so if you prefer to use that as well, that's fine. But I just plug this into a laptop, and it's pretty easy to use. So it comes with this connector, Ethernet connector cord, which is just an adapter basically, and things like that. Then this is the actual borescope itself. Now it's pretty long and pretty flexible. The cool thing about it though is it'll go into a 0.2 inch diameter. So going down our 22 caliber barrels is no problem whatsoever. Now pull this little protective cap off and you can get the idea of the diameter then of this. All around here are I believe they're fiber optic. It looks like there could be little LEDs, but I believe they're fiber optics, but maybe not. I'll have to get a microscope out and check them out and we can determine that. But then the lens is right there in the middle. The camera portion is right there in the middle. So it's really, really tiny. Just to sort of check out that diameter, their claim of 0.2 inch, let's go ahead and just do it and we'll take a look here. So sure enough, 1.94 inches at the maximum diameter. So that will go down some pretty small bores, which is great in the shooting world. The cable itself, fairly tough. You know, I'm sure there's a minimum bending radius. It was packaged something like that, so you know, maybe a 10-inch circle or something like that. You don't want to bend it too much, but going down our rifle bores will not be an issue. What also comes with it though is another nice thing, and it's these little components. Now I'm not sure how well you'll see those in the camera, but they're little right-angle mirrors, so that you slide these on and the borescope camera comes in, because the camera only looks straight ahead, but then they've got polished mirrors right here, so now you can look 90 degrees at your rifle. So what we're going to do with this, and that's just a very quick and brief overview of this. You can use the standard Windows camera app, which is free. Teslong has an app you can download with it as well. You can take pictures or movies, which is cool. We're going to do movies in our case, and I got, like I say, 4 different barrels we're going to look at. One is the BCA barrel we just gave away. Now I had cleaned it, and I had not scrubbed it or cleaned it for copper, but I had done the carbon, and for the most part, I think you'll see in the videos that it was a pretty decent cleaning, but not perfect. Despite heavy brushing and swabbing and cleaning and all the sort of normal things you do with solvents, and then finally with a light oil. So that was an interesting one to find out. But then I did 3 different match barrels to check it out as well. So one is a Remington 700 5R rifle in 308, and that is an incredibly good shooting gun. And so it is one of these, when you get a really good match gun, over cleaning them can be a problem. And so I wanted to see what that really meant. And so this gun had not been cleaned, I'd say, in at least 200 rounds, as far as the barrel goes. The bolt I wipe off and things like that, but the barrel had not been cleaned. And it's an interesting result. And in fact, it still shoots incredibly well. So we'll look at that. The other we're going to look at is Wilson Combat 6.5 Grendel barrel, and that's one that we've been just starting to shoot on the Grendel series, and it has a few rounds to it now, so we'll check that one out. And then actually 2 different 223 match barrels. One's a White Oak Armament barrel, and the other's a Wilson Combat Super Sniper barrel. So we're going to do that. I'll add the videos in here, and you can take a look at the rifling, and we'll make some comments. But instead of just doing a detailed review of this, let's take a look at what 4 different barrels look like, and what their different levels of cleanliness will look like when they're still shooting very accurately. All right, now we're going to take a look at our 6.5 millimeter Grendel barrel from Bear Creek Arsenal. This is the one that I started the series with. You see there it's 1 and 8 stainless steel, but you can also see the finish on the outside of the barrel there. That's one thing I noticed when I first did it. I coated it, so it didn't really matter. In fact, it wasn't a disadvantage, but
The finish isn't quite as good as some of the others, but it's certainly fine. But anyway, just so you like to see that, and it also shows how well that Jasco stripper took the Brownell's lumen-hide coating off. But now we're getting into the back of the chamber, and we'll go on into the throat there a little bit. I was kind of checking to make sure I did a good job cleaning, because this is when I had cleaned it before shipping it out to the gentleman that won the raffle. And so I just want to make sure I'd done a reasonably good job cleaning. There's still a little bit of carbon in there, so I didn't get it all with the chamber brush. And this is one of those things I was mentioning on some of the other videos of these borescopes, is that I'm just not sure how well the chamber brushes really work. They need to be probably on the end of a rotary tool to do a good job in these chambers. So I'll probably adapt mine to do that instead of just kind of put it on the end of a cleaning rod and working it back and forth. I mean, it didn't do bad, but it's not great either. But I went through this with Hoppies number 9 and, soaked it for a good while, brushed it, 10 strokes, 10 full strokes with the brush, and then ran patches down through it, soaked the brush again, ran the brush down through this thing again, and then started down with patches until it was dry. But I want you to look, and I did not clean the copper off of it. Okay, I wanted to send it to him with the copper, and if he wants to clean the copper out, he will. But I was trying to get all the carbon out, because the copper is, it's just what takes a lot of rounds to build up. And if you look, the copper, there's copper there, but it's kind of hit and miss. It's not really like long streaks like I've seen in the other barrels, where it was fairly consistent or more consistent. And as we get down in here, well, you see there's still carbon in some of these locations. And so I don't know, maybe it was just had a little bit more rough, but there've been a little more than 300 rounds through this thing at this point. But, I mean, it's not terrible. It's just not as maybe consistent seemingly. It's just a relative thing looking at these Borescope pictures, for me, comparing them anyway. But this is all copper going forward here. And this section is really pretty consistent in that. And the lighting makes it look darker than it is. When I turn around and bring it back, you'll see that most of that is copper and not carbon in that area. But then we get back into a sort of hit and miss just a little bit on that. And I don't know if this is changes in diameter, changes in surface finish. I don't know. The surface finish doesn't look so bad here. There are a couple of areas like where you can see a little bit of it there, where you start to see the chatter marks and the machining marks a bit more. But a lot of those have been smoothed out by firing. We fire honed it in essence without using the abrasives that some people do. So it's not terrible. It's just not maybe as consistent as I'd like to see, but not bad. Not enough to probably explain why I couldn't get accuracy out of it. At least, just visually seeing what you can see with the scope. It'd be really cool to get some precise gauging of this barrel and see what's going on the inside. There you can sort of see I slowed down and stopped where you see more of the chatter. We're getting up towards the muzzle. There's some pits in the steel right there in between the lands a little bit. You see that. I didn't see that in other barrels, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it. It can happen in steel. But depending, how good the grade of steel is, etc. is. But again, then I sort of do the same thing. I look at the muzzle crown here, trying to get a good view of it. It's a little hard to see in these views. There wasn't excessive buildup in there, and I went on out through the muzzle brake as well to sort of get a view of it. But I'm walking around the diameter, seeing if there's any, asymmetrical buildup as it exits the barrel, which would be, a bad thing. Now I'm coming back through it. Now you see a bit more. That's carbon. The other color you see is copper in there as you go along down the barrel. And our gas hole looks actually pretty good. In fact, probably looks better than most as far as erosion and cleanliness. It's better than the other barrels, the match barrels, as far as that goes. So not a big deal there. Everything's working fine on the gas. I never had one function issue other than initially when I was trying to work out the right amount of buffer weight to make the system run. It had nothing to do with that. gas hole. So you come back here, and this is where you see, you know, it's heavy on one side of the barrel and a little bit lighter in the other, and then it'll start to do hit and miss. There, you spin around the diameter, see the difference? And then I'm coming on down the barrel now, and you can see it's a little bit more. So just a difference. Is it enough to make an accuracy difference? Yeah, I can't say, but again, I never really got that great a result out of this barrel. Hopefully, Zinfandel will. That's the gentleman that won it. And so we'll see more when it comes to this barrel in the future. You see the transition in the color there as we get back towards the breech or chamber end is more of a copper color. And you can see a little bit of a roughness at the bottom, but I mean, the barrel doesn't, it's not like you see something really horribly wrong machining wise in it. But you definitely can see a pattern difference in the deposits of carbon and copper, both around the diameter in a circular sense, and then down the length of the barrel it changes. Now we're in the neck area, just kind of looking for copper buildup in the neck or carbon. Nothing really bad, and really no big throat erosion either. Really not much throat erosion at all. See, they're just a little bit light throat erosion, but not so bad. That's only 300 rounds, so, you know, but nothing crazy going on. Now there we see a bit of the machining. That was one thing, and I don't know how big a deal it is. In the chamber of the BCA was just a little bit rougher. You can see that in there, and I had noted that before, but the inside of the barrel was pretty good. So I really didn't have any issues with brass sticking or injection or anything else, but just something to note. Anyway, that's the Bear Creek Arsenal 20-inch heavy profile 6.5 Grendel barrel as viewed from the Borescope. And now we're going to go down the bore of a Remington 705R. This is a 25th anniversary version of this rifle. Incredibly accurate gun. I mean, from the factory, the only thing I've done is a slight trigger adjustment, not even replacement, and a lot of ammo development. So it basically is down. It's a .28 MOA gun right now, and could be better than that, but that's pretty good for a factory rifle. Anyway, we're going to go down and look at this. It's again 5R rifling. It's supposed to stay cleaner, etc. Not distort the bullet as much as it goes down the bore. But there we're going into the chamber. And I start first with the end of the Borescope looking straight on. And then I found a way to install the 90-degree mirror to where you see the sides and the bore as you go down. We'll see that here in just a minute. But just kind of looking at the chamber is really clean, and the neck where it goes in. Probably the reason there is I shoot only neck turn brass, and so the fit is really tight. When it fires, it doesn't leak around the neck much at all. The brass comes out really clean, and you could see that there. It was really clean. But as you go down to bore, now this rifle has probably 300 rounds to it since it's been cleaned last, and it's one of these old adages or sayings, right, that you just don't over clean these rifles. But this one to me is looking like, well, it's time to clean, but what do I know? I don't know. It still shoots really, really well. But I think I might go ahead and strip it all the way down, strip the copper out of it, and take a look at it again with the Borescope, and then go out and shoot it and see how many rounds it takes to refoul and seal this bore again. Just so we can see this. I'll probably do that. You can see there the copper on the lands. I would imagine what we're seeing down in between there would be powder fouling, carbon buildup a little bit. It's not bad, but it's definitely there.
Now this has no muzzle brake or anything on it. In fact, it wasn't even threaded from the factory, so it just comes straight off the end of the barrel. There's your wormhole view. Coming back out. Now I installed the mirror. And I played around. You can screw the mirror on at different lengths to change sort of the focal point. And so I tried to get this one, and you can see there that you can see the sides better in the 90-degree mirror, but you can still see around it, which is kind of a cool view. So you get an idea of both at the same time. Yeah, there's definitely some carbon in between the lands there. This Teslong is just such a useful tool for checking how your gun is, how it's fouled, how the finish and polish work is, etc. But I think I'm probably going to get the most use of it for simply how well have I cleaned, and maybe when do I need to clean, other than seeing accuracy fall off more than anything else. There's some carbon down in between the lands there. I don't know that it matters, but this rifle is shot exclusively Reloader 15 or Varget through it, and I don't know if the powder fouling this probably is related somewhat to the powders you're shooting, how clean they burn. But that's all that's been fired through this, and then generally it's either been 168 AMAXs or Sierra 175 Match Kings that have been down this. Although recently I have shot some Nosler custom competitions, which have proved to be extremely accurate. All right, reached the bore, now we're coming back out. So anyway, that's a Remington 705R. All right, here we're starting from the breech end or chamber end, and you can sort of see the beginning of the chamber and how smooth it is. And then we'll travel on up into the bore. This rifle has had, I'm guessing, somewhere around 70 rounds through it at this point. So it's not perfectly clean. It has been fouled with carbon and with copper, of course, and you're going to see that down in the bore. But right around where the shoulder sets is what we're looking at right now, and it's pretty clean. The brass shows that too, because I don't get really dirty brass. It seals pretty well. So now it goes on up into the chamber. You can see just the beginning there, a little bit of throat erosion. Of course, that's normal, but you see what it looks like. And then we move forward, and you'll see the copper down in there. Depending on the view, it'll show up a little bit more. It's not too bad right here. But the bore is really well polished and smooth. This is, of course, had a few rounds to it, but just as it comes from the factory was pretty good. And there you can see the carbon I was talking about. So there's not a lot in it compared to some of these other rifles. There's not that much fouling in there. If you get towards the muzzle end, it's interesting though. There's more copper down there. Should be getting close here. I found the vent hole in all of these. There you go. There's more of the carbon fouling, but a little bit of the copper starting in. And you can see the chatter marks in there from the machining of the barrel, the rifling of the barrel. There's a bit of the copper color beside the carbon. The camera just does a really good job. There's a little bit more of that sort of chatter mark, I believe, from the machining of it. Now we're getting up towards the
gas hole area. Right there it is. And you can tell because the carbon was building up a little bit more too in that area. We're moving towards the muzzle, and it's interesting that the carbon out of the touch hole goes, there's a streak of it that goes from there forward. I guess it sort of makes sense. That's where the gas direction is moving, but there is a heavier buildup there going forward of that of the gas hole. But it's not blocked or anything like that. It's fine. You can tell as I was taking this video, I was a little bit fixated on anything. So it's like, hey, there's more carbon. Well, yeah, big deal. Now there is more significant chatter marks from the cutters going forward, and that's pretty heavy. It doesn't seem, it doesn't seem to affect it, but I'm confident it would take it longer to break in too with those. Now this is broken in because it's shooting really well, but that's what you're seeing. They were coming out of the muzzle end. There is a muzzle brake. I just left it on there so you can kind of see what's in and around it. It's got a target crown on the barrel. You can see that is clean, which is good. But just inside the muzzle, you can see the threads of the muzzle down below that don't engage are all fouled, and the very end of the barrel is fouled, but the target crown remains clean. Move forward, you can see the machining marks, and of course the top vents and the muzzle brake, as well as the big side there. But the muzzle brake isn't terribly fouled. Most of that's getting out. I think fast enough it doesn't really foul, and at low enough pressure. There you can see a bit more of the copper color in there. With that angle, you can see the light and the copper. You see as we come on back though, there's still pretty significant chatter marks throughout this whole barrel. Now, it's getting better, it's getting polished, but maybe it's still breaking in because some of the latest results, I don't know. This is before I shot the latest video, which I'll post here shortly. And we put another 75 rounds down it. And then now I'm going to go through the Borescope again, and then we're going to clean it really well. And we'll see before and after on that too, on how well we clean. And I'll show what solvents and how I do it. But just be an interesting thing because this scope in the end to me, are you going to find a lot of damage or things? Maybe not, but it's a really useful tool to see how well you clean and how often perhaps you need to clean. So that's probably the biggest use I'll get out of this scope. There again, right back to the throat erosion that's there. It hasn't seen a lot of rounds, but it starts and it starts right away. So now we're into the chamber and the neck area. Just kind of looking around, and it's it's got a little bit of fuzz from wiping it down. All right, here we're starting down our White Oak Armament 18-inch SPR barrel. This one, it just shoots phenomenally. This is in fact the rifle just before I took it to a PRS contest and was able to win this contest. Is that the Hide? You can check out the Hide's channel on YouTube as well and Facebook. But he held a PRS shoot each summer, and we went to it, and it was just a great time, and I was fortunate enough to be able to win, but it was with this gun. The gun that won second, a friend of mine was shooting the Wilson Combat 5.56 rifle of mine. And so that's cool. All the load ammunition workup paid off, I guess, in the end, at least for fun, just having fun shooting and being able to compete. But anyway, this barrel did really well. This is exactly as it went before the contest. And so you can see there's a lot of copper down in it. There's some carbon. I mean, it's not bad. It's mainly copper down inside of here. But it just shot lights out. I mean, this is the one I had down with the accurate 25-20 loads down to 0.4 MOA, and it shot that way. I found myself in the contest hunting a little bit around the target because you'd shoot a cold bore and shoot high left just a little bit, and me trying to overcorrect. Now, there's the gas hole as well. You can see that's pretty clean. In fact, really clean compared to what was on the Wilson Combat 6.5 Grendel. It had tended to have a little bit more buildup going forward of the barrel towards the muzzle, which is down as we're going through in this view. But anyway, this one it shot lights out in that contest. My worst target was the first target, and it was just under an inch, and then everything else was sub half inch or so. The last one was sub half inch MOA to shoot a decent score and win. But I was just saying that because it's interesting. This one shoots so well, and you just don't see a lot of carbon fouling in it. There's some, but it's really copper fouled. And so I think it's sort of coated in copper, sealed up the pores in the barrels so much, and not so much carbon buildup. And so that would seem to make sense to me. Now, if you know better, please comment. Let me know, because it's sort of my first playing around with bore cams and trying to look and understand what's going on in there. But this barrel is just, it shoots incredibly well. But like I say, you'll just see there's a little carbon there. It would go back towards the breech or chamber end. In fact, that's right at the chamber end. And then here, I try to look around these the best I can around the neck and throat area, just kind of see what's building up and how much wear and throat erosion you're seeing. There's a little bit, but this gun, it probably has somewhere. I can count them up, but I haven't. Somewhere around 500 rounds. Now, what I did was I took the 90-degree camera lens off, and this is just how the camera is designed, straight down the cable. And I thought this was kind of cool view because now you get a bit more perspective on carbon, and sort of it's not like continuous. There's sort of little spurts of where it sticks, and then you see the majority of it is just if there's anything there, it's copper down in between the lands, and you can see it there as it goes forward. But kind of a cool view. You can get a feel for the rifling and things like that too. You can't focus. Your depth of field is a little off here, but you can only focus. It's a fixed focus device, so as you go forward, you'll see exactly where that focus is. Whereas 90 degrees, you can kind of stop and play around and move it just slightly and come in and out of focus. Now here we're getting it right towards the muzzle. I do see some more carbon there, but that's right at the muzzle as it comes out. And then we go into the muzzle brake that's on this one. And this is that big tanker style comical looking brake, but it really makes this gun shoot. So anyway, I think I like that kind of view going down the bore that way. It's kind of a different perspective, and you can understand maybe some of the things in the chamber a bit better than rotating around at 90 degrees. The Teslong Borescope. For $50 on Amazon, I think it's well worth the money for the USB version. It's about $75, I think, for the Wi-Fi if you want that. Anyway, pretty useful, really good resolution, really good color. Seems to work very easily without any special software. So, I think it's useful. You might want to check it out as well. Just a good tool to evaluate your bores and how well you're cleaning.